Welcome everyone to Defender for Cloud in the Field. In today's episode, we are going to talk about Defender for Containers. But before, I want to say thank you very much for your audience. Thanks for subscribing for the Microsoft Security channel. And if you did not, please follow the link below, our AKA, to get the playlist for Defender for Cloud in the Field. So with that, I want to welcome again our friend for this talk about Defender for Cloud Containers. Maya, welcome back.
Hi, Yuri. Thanks you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here again.
Yes, again, Maya being on the show, this will be the third time that she has been on the show, and now is bringing some really cool news about Defender for Containers. We had you on the show last December to talk about the new Defender for Containers plan, but today you are going to talk about container protection in a multi-cloud environment. Can you please give an overview about the solution?
Yeah, for sure. I'll be happy to. I want to share with you today the exciting news we have about Microsoft Defender for Containers and the way we are now expanding into multi-cloud, and specifically our latest release that supports Google Kubernetes Engine clusters, GKE clusters, that are deployed in GCP Cloud. And in order to talk about this, I want to take you a step back and give you a little bit of background about multi-cloud and why we are talking about this. So today, about more than 90% of organizations embrace multi-cloud strategies for many reasons, but the reasons are ranging from having maximum flexibility into even cost optimizations. And while there are so many benefits in multi-cloud, and using multiple cloud providers, we see that security teams are struggling with the complexity of a multi-cloud environment. And specifically, when we look at specifically on containers, we see that containers adoption is booming, and that's because of their scalability and portability, and they're becoming very critical in every and any cloud environment. And that's why when Microsoft Defender for Cloud expanded its support to AWS and GCP, we wanted to enable customers to manage security centrally across clouds and reduce complexity. And we started this journey not too long ago in November at Ignite, when we released the support for AWS, and Microsoft Defender for Cloud announced just recently its support also for GCP, Google Cloud Platform. And while announcing that, we actually expanded the capabilities of our native CSPM and CWP capabilities, and that is now including also Microsoft Defender for Containers capabilities into Google Cloud Platform GCP. So with that, organization can now easily understand and manage their security posture across cloud and protect their workloads from a central place, no matter if they're running in Azure, Amazon Web Services, or GCP, Google Cloud Platform, or even on-premise. And the way that we design it is to be an integral part of the product so that the organization can understand their security posture, but as well as prevent and detect and respond to existing threats in a single place. And as part of this motion, also Microsoft Defender for Containers joined that with its threat protection capabilities, and including now Kubernetes behavioral analytics and anomaly detections for GKE clusters, and also for their underlying host, as well as security best practices and built-in admission control policies to harden their Kubernetes workload. And with all of that, and I'll touch it on the demo, there's also a simplified onboarding experience to easily onboard any existing or future GKE clusters.
Wow, that's a really great overview. So many things. And talking about GCP, last month we released the new GCP connector. And I'm assuming that with this new workload protection capability that you're talking about, we'll be able to onboard GKE clusters, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was very important to us to provide a solution for GCP that will include CSPM and CWP capabilities to main customer workloads, which are servers and containers. So Google Kubernetes Engine, which is GKE, is Google's managed environment for deploying, managing, and scaling applications using GCP infrastructure. So now we support GKE standard clusters, which means that as part of the onboarding experience, and when you connect a GCP project into Microsoft Defender for Cloud, you can enable the containers plan and offering to your existing GKE clusters, and future clusters and existing clusters will be discovered by our discovery service. We will see all your GKE clusters and we will protect those. We will provide runtime capabilities, threat detection and admission control capabilities, and security best practices once we identify the GKE clusters.
So basically, we can see recommendations and alerts for Kubernetes clusters across clouds in a multi-cloud view capability, right? I mean, not only the AWS, but GCP and Azure as well.
Yeah, and that's what I think is super exciting about it is, and I will definitely show it in the demo that I want to share with you today, is that in one view, you will be able to see clusters across the cloud. So you will be able to see a single recommendation, how it is impacting your GKE cluster, AKS clusters in Azure, and EKS clusters in AWS, all under one place. So you can have that view. And same goes to alerts. So we will be able to see attacks, whether they're starting in one cloud and moving to the other, or is a single attack per cloud, but the same attack happening, and I have an example for that, the same attack, exactly the same pattern is happening across your different workloads in the different clouds. So that's a very interesting new view that we've added.
Yep. This is great. And what are the prerequisites to onboard GKE clusters?
Yeah, so as part of the onboarding, we added auto provisioning capability, which means that all the prerequisites that we have, which I'll detail in a second, will be by default installed on your GKE clusters without you needing to do anything or configure anything. So what are those prerequisites? So first we have audit logs. So for every management action that is being done on the cluster, we track that and we do our runtime threat analysis also based on that. So we enable the audit logs on your GKE clusters, and then we stream this data back into Microsoft Defender for Cloud backend. That's one prerequisite of audit logs. The other prerequisite is actually connecting the cluster into Arc-enabled Kubernetes, which means the connection between GKE or GCP into Azure will be done via Arc. And then we have two extensions on top of Arc for data collection for the Kubernetes host, for the GKE host, and also for admission control policies, which installs the gatekeeper and the policy extension on top of your clusters. So all of this might sound like a lot, but it's actually done without you having to do anything because it's part of the onboarding process.
Oh, great. So if I have automatic provisioning, this is going to do all the work behind the scenes, correct?
Exactly that.
And if I turn off automatic provisioning for some reason, for example, if there's an option to install the prerequisites on the per cluster basis?
Oh, that's a very good question and something we definitely wanted to answer because not everybody right on the start want to install agents on their entire workload, and from some reason they want to exclude specific cluster. So we also created an experience for per cluster onboarding. So you turn off the automatic provisioning, and I'll show you how to do that. And then you will be surfaced with recommendations in Microsoft Defender for Cloud saying that you're missing a piece or missing a prerequisite. You're missing Azure Arc, and you're missing the Defender extension or the policy extension, and then we will provide you a recommendation and a fix in order to deploy those. This will at this point will be via a script that we will generate specifically for you with your specification, and you can download the script and run it on your cluster.
Awesome. Well, since we were talking about demo, let's switch to the demo environment and see how this works.
Sure. As you can see here, we are now in the main Microsoft Defender for Cloud dashboard. From here, if you want to look at your GCP connectors, you need to go to environment settings. And in environment settings, you can see that for me, for example, I have a couple of GCP connectors. In order to add a connector, you just create a new connector. You just type in the relevant GCP project and project ID. If I go into here and I'll just select a project which is not yet connected, and I'll take the project ID, and then I will continue, and then you can see that you have a new tile here for containers, which is by default enabled and fully configured. So that's what I meant when I said that you have auto provisioning enabled by default. So by default, you have the 3 components enabled on your GCP project, which is the Kubernetes audit log, which we mentioned. So those are being streamed back into Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And you have the auto provisioning of the Defender extension on top of Azure Arc and policy extension on top of Azure Arc. Once you decide if you want to move with auto provisioning as recommended by default or change something, you can click on next, and then you have a script with the required permission on GCP side. You just copy it and you go into GCP and connect it and review and generate. What I did for this demo is already created those for you. But you need to know that it's really simple. Once I click this will just open the relevant GCP project. And then a terminal will be open, and I can paste the Cloud Shell template here. So and then you review and generate, and so you need to complete an output once you do that on GCP. And here, once I run the script, I would have an output. The output would then need to be placed here, and then I can complete and generate a new connector. Once you have a connector provisioned, and that's something I already done prior to this demo, I wanted to show you that, for example, I have this specific connector, GCP connector, and I have it fully configured, which means that I have all the clusters within this specific connector deployed with all the prerequisites. So let me go back, and this one is called containers auto provisioning. So let's go and see what in this project, which clusters, GKE clusters I have in my Google project. So I will select the project, and then I will go into my cluster, and I can see that I have GKE AP Demo 1 and Demo 2. Now let's go see and make sure that we have discovered those as part of the inventory and recommendations in Defender for Cloud. So you can see that I can go into the inventory, and I can search into resource type, which now includes many more resource types. And I can search for specifically GCP containers, container clusters. And then I would see the new clusters, Demo 1 and Demo 2, which I just now showed you on my GKE. So they are discovered here, and we have recommendations for them which are completely healthy. We also can see, if we go specifically into the recommendation tabs, we can see specific recommendation for cross-cloud. As Yuri, you asked me earlier if we have a cross-cloud view, so now I'm going to share with you some admission control recommendations that are now showing across the different clouds. So let's look, for example, for privileged containers should be avoided. So this is very a basic best practice, but now we can see that this recommendation is showing up both for AKS clusters and for OpenShift clusters, which are on-prem, and for our GKE clusters that are connected via Azure Arc.
That's
So
awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
So it really gives us a cross-cloud view of the same misconfiguration that is happening across our environment. Now I want to go over with you to do a similar exercise, but for alerts. So if we go into our alerts dashboard and also filter, so you can see here resource types, and I filtered for Kubernetes service. We can do also Arc, AWS, and GCP. So I wanted to show you really a recommendation that I have here, alerts that I have here, and those are popping up across environments. So you can see here my AWS clusters have all these alerts. I have here some clusters for AKS, right?
Mm-hmm.
With possible attack demo. And here I managed to catch an actual attack happening on a GCP cluster. And I see that attack, and what is very interesting in this attack is to see it across the MITRE attack chain. So I see it from initial access through execution, privilege, escalation, and then execution again. And if I look deeply into those details, I can see that the attack on GCP actually started from an exposed Kubernetes service, which can be deployed. That exposed service can be happening also, if you have a single deployment point to different cloud, so you can have the same vulnerability or the same exposed service across cloud. So it's very important to see all of that in this single view. You can see, for example, here, if I go inside, that this was Weave Scope, which is a popular open source, and I guess that it was open to the internet based on in order to interact with this dashboard. Then we can see that what is happening is that we see an anomalous pod deployment, which means that someone deployed a pod which was unusual, and in this case I looked it up and it was an unusual registry, which means that if there's an actual attack here, it is happening from a registry that usually is not used in this cluster. And then we can see that it was a deployment of a container with a sensitive volume mount, and a suspicious request to the API server was done. And if we look at specific details of the request, we can see, I think, that they have requested to list secret. So yeah, default secret was requested, and we can see many details here about the context of the GCP resource and which cluster and which namespace this happened and in which pod. So very rich information on the scope of the alert. And actually we can also see that a reverse shell was detected here. And if I look inside here, I can even see much more details about the process that was identified, and many more details to help you investigate. And just, that's a very short demo, but in order to give you a look into the capabilities that we now have, specifically on GCP, but also to see it as a cross-cloud view, which I think is super cool and powerful.
Oh yeah, this was a great demo, Maya, because it really shows how things are coming together into a single dashboard experience, coming from different cloud providers, aggregating recommendations across multi-cloud. That's really a huge step to allow customers to have better visibility for multi-cloud environment, from the preventative measures with recommendations and the reactive measures with secure alerts. So great work there.
Thank you. I was happy to have the opportunity to show and share that, and I am looking forward to see customers adopting that.
All right, yeah, that's great. And again, yeah, if you have any feedback, make sure to use the user voice. I'm gonna share the link below. If there is anything that you would like to see in the future for this capability, make sure to add your feedback on the user voice. We also have many locations in the UI that you can provide feedback. And Maya and the team, they are always looking for feedback to see how the product can improve. So Maya, again, thank you very much for your time. I truly appreciate. Great demonstration, great release.
Thank you. It was fun to join here, and thank you everybody for the attention.
All right, everyone. With that is a wrap for another episode of Defender for Cloud in the Field. Make sure to subscribe, aka link below, and stay tuned. We have a lot more to come in the upcoming episodes. See you again next time.